So this is an attic space above my office. This is a 100-year-old building on Main Street, Fort Mill, and I rent half the building. A retail store rents half. And my half has some private offices, and I sublease those, and one of them is my own. And it's a cool setup, but this is an attic space that once I can afford to renovate, I want to make my office. So I like to come up here sometimes and just dream, get some vision for the future and what the space could be. So if sometime soon I'm here in this space, all renovated, then you'd have seen it when it was just an idea. So a big part of my life in the last 3 years has been processing failure and success. The main reason is because I took a big swing in 2015 when I quit a really stable, well-paying job, six-figure income in a really good environment, but I felt it was time to leave and go off on my own, and that was a big sacrifice. And I didn't do it impulsively. I talked with family about it, those closest to me, but I really felt like I needed to do it, to go for it, to start making my own films, to kind of pursue the dream in a real practical way. A lot of people who didn't know me that well thought I was crazy, and maybe I was crazy. I don't regret it, and I've had a lot of success, but I've had a lot of failure. When I tell people that, when I catch up with people who I haven't talked to in a while, they're asking, how's it going? How's the film business? How's the pursuit of the dream? And it's always been in my nature just to sort of be real and raw, and I talk about, the highs and the lows and the failure, and I think I failed at this and learned a lot. And they always stop me. They're like, no, you didn't fail. Like, they feel bad that I'm saying that. Like, they feel sorry for me. Like, oh, you didn't fail. Like, look at everything you achieved, or you made a film. You've raised money. You're working. You've got 2 films in the pipeline. There's things that you're winning at, and I always have to stop them and be like, hey, listen, when I say I failed, I don't mean that self-deprecatingly. I don't mean that apologetically, because failure is your friend. Failure's been my friend. Failure is a really good, healthy thing. In fact, failure's required, I think, to really achieve anything of value and anything of influence in this life. It's a cliche to talk about someone like Thomas Edison, who said he failed 1,000 times before he invented the light bulb. Failure is a prerequisite to success. In fact, the people who succeed and who win without failure, it's a really short-lived success. It's an empty success. And neck and neck with any 2 people in life doing the same thing, the one who has failed to get there is going to be smarter, is going to be better at doing that thing. Failure can often tell us when it's time to let a vision die. For those who are visionary, who have vision, like myself, and I get it from my dad, he gets it from his dad, we can't help but sort of have big vision for a lot of big things. And for the ones that will last and take root and will be a foundation to build a life, a vocation, a legacy on, there's going to be a lot of visions that lead up to that will come and go, that will die. Failure tells us which visions die, which visions we keep going at. Failure strips us of our own arrogance. If we want to be full, whole, well-rounded people, that's going to come with modesty, with humility, with empathy. Those things are only got through failure. Nadia Bolz-Weber, big influential figure in my life. I don't know her, but I read her books, I listen to her. She said, good decisions come from wisdom. Wisdom comes from bad decisions. I have made so many bad decisions in my life, and certainly in the last 3 years of sort of going after the dream in a full-time way, made bad decisions based on ignorance, based on self-ambition, based on arrogance, and that has led to failure and pain. But once I've gotten through that, I've actually cherished the pain, I've cherished the failure, because then it's brought something called wisdom, which then leads to good decisions. You can't have one without the other. You can't have wisdom without loss and pain. You can't make good decisions without knowing the outcome of bad decisions. There's also something important about loss and failure that creates empathy in us. For one, it just makes us better humans. To be able to connect with another person who's going through pain, for us to say, hey, I know what that feels like. I felt that pain too. Here's what I've learned. Let me help you along. Roger Ebert called film an empathy machine. That's why we love film. That's why we're drawn to film, because in a film you can show pain, you can show failure. That's why every story includes a moment of true failure, because then success is greater, redemption's greater, growth is greater, but it also allows us as humans to be able to help other people along. It's really empty advice when someone said, hey, I don't really know what you're going through. I haven't felt that pain. I haven't done that loss. I haven't failed like that, but maybe you should try this. Who needs that? Who wants that? I'm still acutely aware that I am young. I'm in my 30s. I'm in the first half of my life, and I don't really believe I will have anything of true substance to offer to my fellow man until the second half of my life. And a big part of the reason I want to do this and communicate this is so that I can sort of process the failure and the success in real time and learn from it. And I'm sure I'll say things that I don't believe later or that I'll regret later. But it's important for those of us going through it to encourage the others as you're trying to achieve and having failure. Don't get discouraged. Take heart in the failure because it's required. And for those who take a big swing and fail, if you're over that person, if you're leading them, if you're employing them, don't fire that person, promote that person, because there's nothing more valuable in a company or in a team than people who have failed. Now, repeat failure, maybe that's grounds for firing. If we're not learning the lessons that our failures are supposed to teach us, if we're not adjusting and adapting, then that indicates some additional areas that we need to improve before we can actually redeem the failure and convert it into success. But for those who take a big try and fail, those are the people you want to promote. Those are the people who you can actually build success on. And for myself, these are things that I'm still working out. I mean, quitting a comfortable job with a wife and 3 kids, who I'm the sole breadwinner for, is a big swing. And I did that confident in the idea that that would be the last company job I have, that I would make this work, I would go off on my own, and I would become a full-time feature filmmaker. It's 3 years later, and that hasn't happened. And so I had to pivot first into taking freelance income just to sustain myself. I might have to pivot again and go back to a full-time job because of the failure of achieving sustainable full-time work on feature films. If that has to happen, I am good with it. I can call it a failure and call it a failure confidently, knowing that this is a long game and that my success ultimately will be shaped by this failure and formed as I continue pushing forward. Count the failure as a personal win, that you are graduating one step closer, that you are going through the pain and the fire that's necessary for ultimate success.